Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Warhammer Underworlds for the channel on some very shiny boards today. It's because it's very dank outside I think, so there's not as much natural light to support the studio ones. Nobody told Scotland that it's meant to be summer. Anyway, today we have the vampires against the Skelly army as the Crimson Court go up against the Sepulchral Guard. It's still hard, it's such a bad word, it doesn't roll off the tongue. It's a terrible old-fashioned word that isn't used anymore for good reason. It's hard to say. Either way, let's take a look at both sides and play some Underworlds. And here's a quick rundown of the four vampires being led by Prince Duval. Is he any relation to Shelley Duval? Probably not. Anyway, he is the leader. He is joined by Anais Curseborn, Gorath the Enforcer, and Velis von Fane with the Joker here at the back there, with the hardest to read profile cards of all the warbands available for Underworlds. They get hungry and want more blood at the top of each turn, but at the end of an action phase, if they have no hunger tokens, they inspire and they become much faster and deadlier on their flipped side. So that's about it for them. They've been very hit or miss, I think, in all their showings, but I don't remember if they've ever gone against the skeletons. They may not have, so I'm not sure how they'll do. And here is the Sepulchral Guard, who I'll just call the Skeleton Army, I guess, or, you know, being led by the Warden, the laziest skeleton of all. He just activates, makes everyone else do everything, and then wins. I mean, it's a cushy job, I'm sure it's fine. So he is joined by the Champion, the Harvester, the Prince of Dust, and their three Petitioners, the Rising Petitioner, the Zealous Petitioner, and the Inevitable Petitioner. They always do really well. I think it's been exceptionally rare for them not to. Again, because most of it is just based around the Warden doing or making others do things while he hides at the back. He's hard to kind of track down because you've got to commit or overcommit to get to him past his army that just keeps respawning. So yeah, it's a genuinely strong warband, really tough to beat. Definitely the stronger half of the starter box that they appear in. But either way, they'll get set up, be on the board. We'll get ready to flip over objectives for your viewing purposes after this quick word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And with that, we're back with deployment ready, good, all set up to start. The Sepulchral Guard will be going first in round 1 of 3, and you can see for yourself on the screen now where they have deployed. For the Guard, they put the three Petitioners, 1, 2 and 3, front and centre, at least as far as where the starting points are. Then we have the Champion, the Harvester, Prince of Dust back here, and then of course the Warden himself back here. Now, the vampires are kind of fast, their base movement speed is 4, but they would have to go through a lot of skeletons, have to put up with them being supported, so he's probably pretty safe. It might have been safer to put him down there, but either way. And the Crimson Court are all just kind of central, just ready to back each other up and go murder some skeletons. So, we are ready to get started, other than flipping over for the purposes of the camera to show you where each objective is. So, the Crimson Court have 3 and 4, and then 1, 2 and 5 for the skeletons. There we are, right there, with 2 in no man's land. And as the dog starts to bark, that's as good a point as any to make a cut and get into round 1. Well, get ready for a lot of this because it's these skeletons. So the Warden himself activated, he did nothing, he activated 2 other skeletons and made them do very slow move actions because they all move 2 hexes, I think without exception. Yeah, unless they inspire. So 2 of the Petitioners were moved. The Zealous Petitioner down here was moved forwards just 1 hex onto objective 5, and the Inevitable Petitioner was the same, so they've claimed a couple of objectives. More than that though, in the power phase, Worthless Chaff was played, which is a fantastic card to get this early. Until one of the Petitioners dies, or until the end of the round, they do not give up any glory when they are killed. Exceptionally useful, especially if you happen to have them at your front lines and inevitably about to get hit by a vampire. The vampires, speaking of, played nothing in their power phase, so back to the Guard. They then played Terrifying Scream. Choose an enemy fighter within 2 hexes of 1 or more friendly fighters and push the chosen fighter 1 hex. That hasn't been done yet. It is now done. And that's just to force him to do a charge action to engage if Gorath wishes to engage with the Inevitable Petitioner, so making it doubly, like, you have to invest twice, you have to do the move and the attack, and it's not going to be worth glory. Basically just trying to devalue the potential kill about to happen. But even though they're skeletons and they have no blood, no flesh, if one of the Crimson Court kill one of the skeletons, no matter which one it is, they will lose their 1 hunger token they get at the start of the round, and that will mean they inspire at the end of the action phase. Well, a mistake was almost made by the guard there, because as it turns out, Gorath actually does have range too. That mace of his is huge, or staff, what is it even called? The Soulbound Mace, yeah. And it's got a huge staff, so yeah, it makes sense that he actually does have range too. Unfortunately, if you roll just 2 single supports when there's no one supporting to attack the target, that doesn't make a blind bit of difference. The attack still misses. So there goes his chance to remove that 1 hunger, and they didn't play anything in the power phase, so not a great start for the court. Oh, Gorath's failure actually goes even further, because that means Land of the Dead scores for the guard. Scores immediately after an opponent's activation step if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and the total value of those objectives is 6 or greater. They grabbed objective 5 and objective 2. So, good job, Gorath. You made them score their first point in your turn. Second activation for the guard, and it was the warden who activated yet again, and once again he didn't move a foot, a hex, whatever. He activated 2 of his skeletons and made them move. Starting with the Rising Petitioner, who was moved back 2 hexes to kind of offer him some support here in case a vampire rushes him. The Harvester also moved down here. And that was it. A nice Curseborn activated second for the Crimson Court, doing a charge action from where he started, and he went down here after the Zealous Petitioner. 3 dice looking for swords. He got that crit, which was not blocked, and he was looking for shields anyway. So the Petitioner is out of there. No glory given though, because of Worthless Chaff, but it does remove his hunger token, so he has 0 hunger tokens, and so he will be inspiring. However, in the power phase, Bone Shrapnel was played by the guard, and for all the text it is just if you're about to lose a skeleton, they explode as they die and deal 1 damage back. So Anais has 1 damage on him of his 4 health. The third activation of the first round for the guard was again the exact same thing, the warden choosing to move his skeletons around rather than doing anything himself. The champion moved up to support the Harvester and the Inevitable Petitioner, and the Prince of Dust moved up 2 hexes back here to also support the warden, so he'd have 2 support now if somebody did try and go after him. A bit of repositioning followed for the Crimson Court as Gorath the Enforcer activated and did a move action and actually moved back 2 hexes onto objective 3, so this is clearly for objective card purposes because he's not getting stuck into the thick of it and chopping down skeletons, but they've got to go for the glory. The glory is what matters in the end of it, or at the end of it. Either way, those skeletons need to die. The final activation of round 1 for the guard was to use the other ability of the Sepulchral Warden to bring back a fallen skeleton, and he's not right next to him or on a starting hex in their territory because Startling Reformation was used, which is one of the funnier bits of art in their deck, honestly. Which is just great to see. Play this after you give a friendly fighter a base counter, which is what he does when he brings them back, which also means he inspires the Zealous Petitioner, so they flip their card. Place that fighter in an empty starting hex in enemy territory, and then give them a charge token. So we're going to have to do some in-camera movement here, because the Zealous Petitioner popped up behind Velis Von Fane there, has to have a charge token, so limited to, well, it's the end of the round anyway, so he wouldn't be doing anything. Either way, head us over to the Crimson Court to take us to the end of a pretty quick round 1. Well, not exactly a super fantastic final activation. All that happened for the Crimson Court was Velis Von Fane activated, moved back 1 hex and stood on objective 4. In the power phase, however, to facilitate another one of them inspiring, Blood Vial is being used, and it's being used on Prince Duval himself. Please get in focus card. You can choose to either remove up to 2 of the hunger tokens they have or heal them 1. He's removing the 1 hunger token he has, and that means now, as we leave the action phase into the end phase for round 1, both Prince Duval and Anais Curseborn are flipping their cards to their inspired side. And so at the end of round 1, both sides are scoring end phase cards. Let's start with the guard, why not? They're only scoring 1, but it is worth 2 glory, so that's going to take them to 3. And it is March of the Dead, which will hopefully come into focus right there. Scoring the end phase if 5 or more friendly fighters each have move or charge tokens. I believe 4 of them have move tokens, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, and then the charge token applied to the Inevitable Petitioner. Oh, sorry, the Zealous Petitioner when he came back was the 5th, so that's scored for 2. Worthy opponents scores for the Crimson Court. Now, my understanding of when this triggers is what is true at the start of the end phase prior to any cards being placed down to be scored. So, score based in the end phase if 1 or more opponents has the same or greater number of glory points than you. So, when the end phase began, the guard were up by 1, so it was either the same or 1, so in either case it scores for 1. They're also scoring and this is because they did those movement actions. Death's Domain, which is worth 2. Scurvus in the end phase if your warband holds all objectives in one or more players' territories. They hold all the objectives in their territory, which is objectives 3 and 4. So as we go into round 2, it is completely even with 3 glory per side. As we begin round 2, it will be the Crimson Court going first. They have taken priority. We'll see if they can use that to their advantage, with 2 out of the 4 of them inspired, although one of the 2 has actually received some damage from a skeleton exploding. We've all been there. Either way, let's see what happens. For the Crimson Court, Gorath, the Enforcer, activated, hoping to make up for his indiscretions in the last round, whiffing against a pathetic little petitioner. He did a charge action, moving from where he was on the objective to the left of your screen, and went after the inevitable petitioner. Rolling 2 dice, still looking for hammer. He got 1. It was not blocked. They were looking for shield, so that's 2 damage. So he crushes that skeleton and he explodes Skyrim style. And this time it is worth 1 glory because the worthless chaff card isn't in effect. So that's him up to 4 glory, and they spent 3 of it on just absolutely kitting Prince Duval out. So let's see, he's got the Von Marusi armor, which, because he's inspired, means that he takes, damage is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. He has Deathly Mastery, so he's -1 dice from adjacent fighters attacking him, which is pretty good. And he has Vampiric Might, which is +1 damage to his range 1 and range 2 attack actions because he's inspired. So he just became quite the powerhouse, although most of the skeletons would have died in 1 hit from him anyway. Well, the petitioners have 2 health, I think the rest of them have 3, and then the warden himself has 4, so yeah, he can kill everyone in 1 hit now except the warden. So Prince Duval, and he's on his inspired side, so he's got Cleave. He's rolling 3 dice looking for hammers, which is the best possible, or the most likely result. So yeah, he's in a pretty good place now. For the skeletons though, Frightening Speed was equipped to the warden himself for 1 glory, which means he can now move 4, which is the same speed as a vampire. Oh, sorry, and I forgot to mention, for getting that kill, Gorath is choosing to remove all his blood counters, so he'll inspire as we go into the end phase of this round. Well, once again, we need a fairly wide shot for the first activation for the guard, because the warden activated, didn't move, didn't do anything. He did, I guess, technically. He brought back the inevitable petitioner on a starting hex, which means he gets a raise counter, which means he becomes inspired. There he is there. Oh, and because he now has 2 inspired friendly fighters, the warden himself inspires, and he scores, they keep coming for 1 glory. Score this immediately after you give a friendly fighter a raise counter, and 1 or more other friendly fighters already had a raise counter. That is true, 2 of the petitioners have them. So that is their 4th glory, so it's back to being even. Well, for all the upgrades he had, it didn't really help very much. Prince Duval activated, he did a charge action, he only moved 1 hex forwards. He wanted to take out one of the tougher skeletons. In this case specifically, he wanted to kill the champion. 3 dice, needing hammers. Normally hitting for 2 with Cleave. He was hitting for 3 though because of Vampiric Might. He did get 1 success, but unfortunately the champion rolled a single support, which does count as a success because the Harvester is supporting him right there. And Cleave only counters shields, which is what he was... Actually no, he looks for dodges anyway, which needs ensnare. So yeah, not a great turn for Duval there, and nothing else he can do about it, really. He's defensive though, so it's going to be hard to hurt him very much. But really needed that kill there. The next activation for the warden, might as well just say that because it's always the warden, be very surprised if it ever isn't. He chose to move 2 of his skeletons, the Harvester moved 2 hexes there, and the inevitable petitioner, whichever petitioner this one is, moved 2 hexes. In the power phase, however, no end to our duty is being played. Choose a friendly fighter with 1 or more move tokens, they make a move action. The Harvester, who now has a move token, is getting moved right there. Even further away from danger, for reasons I presume. A nice Curseborn activated for the Crimson Court, their 2nd last activation for the round, and did a charge action getting behind the champion, also getting a bit close to the warden himself actually, and took a swing at the champion though. 3 dice on his inspired side looking for hammers. He only got 1 hammer. Their dice rolls have been rubbish, quite frankly. But the champion is the odd one out, I guess, for some of them, because all the petitioners need shields, so does the Prince of Dust. The Harvester of a champion, yeah, they're the only ones that need dodges. So that shield, nope. So that is 2 damage, but the champion has 3 health, so he is surviving. So that's not great, but it does mean just like a stiff breeze will be able to take him out. And yet more shuffling of skeletons followed for the warden's next activation. He chose to make the champion move 1 hex. right here. He's still getting flanked by 2 vampires no matter where he moves. And the Harvester was also moved over here. You can have multiple move tokens. So he has been moved onto objective 3. They're clearly going for some objective claims here. And now it's over to the last activation of round 2 for the vampires. And for that final activation, Velis von Fane had to be the one to activate because all the other vampires had charge tokens. She did a charge as well, moving through these vampires and then hitting the, again, I forget if it's the Zealous or the Inevitable one, but essentially, or ostensively, they're both identical. Swung at him, 2 dice looking for hammers, got 1 hammer which was not blocked, so that's 2 damage. So back to the void he goes, he gets or gives up a second glory, and he can be brought back and can be given another raise counter if they so wish, as we go to the guard's last activation for round 2. Oh, before that, the 1 glory gained there from that kill that Velis von Fane just got is somewhat countered, or actually it's surpassed, by Undying Watchman scoring for 2 for the guard. Score this immediately after an opponent's activation step if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and one of those is in enemy territory. They hold objective 2 and objective 3, so yep, that scores. And the final activation for the guard in round 2 was a simple one. It was a forced move action by the warden, again of course it was, for the champion to move 2 more hexes right there. Technically you should have a second move counter, but we're at the end of the round anyway. Speaking of which, now that we're at the end of the round, Gorath the Enforcer inspires. Forgot to mention it, but when Velis got the kill, she also removed her hunger tokens, so she has also inspired. So all 4 of the vampires are inspired as we go into the third and final round, or rather the end phase first, to see if anybody scored anything. Well, there isn't much to cover in the end phase, but there is something. 2 more glory for the guard as they are scoring Eternal Legions. Right here. Score this in the end phase if 3 or more friendly fires are each in no one's or enemy territory. They have 1, 2, 3 in enemy territory. So that means as we go into the final round, the guard have 2, 4, 6, 8 glory now. Good grief. And the Crimson Court have 2, 4, 5. So trailing by 3. Oof. And as we start the third and final round, it's the Skeleton Army that is going first. So let's see what they can do. And for the first Warden activation of the final round, we're going to have to keep this pulled back view to show who he moved, because of course he did, he moved 2 skeletons. The Petitioner who was up here has been moved onto objective 4 behind the 1 health remaining champion, and the Prince of Dust was moved 1 hex away from the Warden, so there's some shenanigans going on there for some reason, but that still does mean anyone going into this hex to try and hit him is going to be flanked by 2 enemies, so he's going to be double supported either way. The first activation of the final round for the Crimson Court was the inspired Gorath the Enforcer, who made up for his whiff in round 1, sort of, by just smacking real well here, getting 2 successes, one of which was a crit at range 2 into the champion, hitting him for 3 damage, which would have killed him from full health. So that is him off the table for 1 glory. Of course he can be brought back if the Warden wishes, but still give up that glory. Well, something remarkable happened next, because the Warden activated, because of course he did, but he didn't make other skeletons move. He was the one who moved. On his inspired side, his base move is 3, but he has that frightening speed upgrade, which means he was moving 5, so he's actually moving faster than the vampires currently. He moved from where he was, roughly up here, 4 hexes. He didn't even go the full distance. He moved down here. He's got that impassable hex blocking him there. He'll still have support from the Prince of Dust here should anyone come round here to get him. Deval could probably reach him round here, but Deval can't one-shot him. So he'd have to commit to it and then also commit another action, or someone else would have to try and finish the job. So either way, he's on the move. Wow, Gorath came out to play. He did a charge action going after the Warden, went round the impassable block obviously. He has movement 4 and he was, what, he was there, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So, took a swing, got 2 crits. The Warden tried his best to block, also getting a crit, but 2 crits trump 1 crit, so that's 3 damage, leaving the Warden on 1 health. Are we actually going to see something that hasn't happened maybe ever? The Warden actually dying? At what cost? Who knows? Well, after reeling from that mace almost shattering him instantly, the Warden did activate. He opted to bring back the champion, and the champion has to reappear on a starting hex, which this is. Gives him a raise counter, he inspires, but it also means that I think he's pretty safe. I think he's actually found a way to keep himself alive. Deval can't go around, like, you can't touch these half hexes, so he can't go around or through the champion now that the champion's there. 1, 2, 3, yeah, he can't walk that way either because the champion, Prince of Dust, is there. Anais would have to go round as well. He's found a way to live. That's incredibly frustrating. Oh man, the bad rolls for the vampires just don't stop. Well, I guess I'm going to have to just roll 2 crits, but still. Deval did a charge action, went after the Prince of Dust. If he'd landed the hit thanks to all those upgrades he has, he would have shattered it into a million pieces. And he is being supported. He's got Gorath there, but he rolled 3 double supports, which are all fancy talk for misses. So there was a chance at one other glory, and it might come down to like just piecemeal getting that glory, and he messed up. Well, as if just to rub some dirt in the wound, the final action of the game for the Warden was to move skeletons. Almost a perfect game of him literally doing nothing else. One turn and he moved. Every other turn was just moving skeletons. They didn't throw a single attack, which is really annoying because the vampires have a card where they want to get hit but live. And against a pathetic weak skeleton just doing 1 damage, I would have really played into their hands, but the Sepulchral Guard don't need to attack. So anyway, he moved the champion 1 hex, he moved the Rising Petitioner 1 hex. That's it, that's their game done. And the game ended with Velis von Fane activating, and I guess Prince Deval taught her wrong as a joke, or she learned it from him, because she did a charge action, just decided to go after the Rising Petitioner. 1 glory is 1 glory. And she rolled 2 double supports in a situation where she only has a single support. So they're misses. Fancy talk for misses. So no, that's their game over, and barring anything they score in the end phase, which we're going to now. Ugh. Oh, I'm sorry, technically before we go to the end phase, it might matter for what objective card they end up drawing. Preternatural Speed does score now as opposed to the end phase because it's a surge. Score this after an activation in which every surviving friendly fighter is in enemy territory. That is now true with her activation, so they do score 1 glory for that, and as I say, they'll have another card for the end phase. Well, here we are in the final end phase, and the Crimson Court are scoring nothing. Like I was alluding to earlier, they have cards where they kind of want to get attacked but live. That would have scored them some glory. Ironically, the card drawn after scoring the Preternatural Speed would have given them a glory for just doing a supported attack. So it would have given them 1 more, and that would have meant that they entered this end phase perfectly drawn with 8 glory aside. Now that still wouldn't change the outcome, because Retake What Is Ours is the only card being scored in this end phase. It's by the guard, and it's worth a massive 3. Score this in the end phase if your warband holds 3 or more objectives and 1 or more of those are in enemy or no one's territory. Objectives 5, 3 and 4, the latter 2 of which are in enemy territory. So that scores for 4, so that splits what would have potentially been an absolute tiebreaker. As it turns out, it was 8 versus 7, and it takes them up to 11. So the Sepulchral Guard comfortably take out the vampires by not throwing a single attack the entire, just as well really, because the dice were not being friendly for the most part. By not throwing a single attack, and only at one point doing an activation which was not just the Warden making skeletons move. So while I go burn these dice, thank you very much for watching another Warhammer Underworlds for the channel. It does suck when the dice just, well, I was going to say favour one side, but not really, no. The guard didn't need to roll dice. That's part of what makes them such an interesting warband. As long as the Warden is safe, you just keep activating him, trigger the skeleton moves, it plays into their cards that want them all to move into enemy territory, it plays into them holding objectives. Sometimes only one of them needs to be in enemy territory or no man's land. Like, you can really quite easily play into their cards as long as the Warden is alive, and the opponent really has to overcommit. Like in most cases, I can't think of a case where it wouldn't be overcommitting to go after the Warden. Like, you'd have to try and get him really early for it to make it enough of a difference to bother. It's a very hard warband to take out. I thought since the vampires would all inspire real quick from killing like the trash mobs, the petitioners, that their flip sides and the extra damage they do, the extra dice they roll on their inspired sides would make all the difference. It just didn't. And they didn't get some of the upgrades that would have helped them. The only 3 they had really were the 3 that went on Deval. They had Undying Evil, that wouldn't have made a difference because they weren't throwing attacks. So yeah, it just a poor matchup for the vampires as it turns out. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I do sincerely hope you enjoyed. If you want to support what we do here on the channel, please do consider becoming a channel member. It gives you early access to certain video series by sometimes up to a week early. or you can press the thanks button, or check out my channel sponsor. If you do so via the affiliate link and buy something for yourself, I will be compensated. And if you're in America, they do stock Underworld stuff. You can't buy Games Workshop stuff from America if you're outside or in the UK, I believe. One of those weird things they do, because they have a monopoly and that kind of thing. Either way, thank you for watching, enjoy the rest of your day, and see you next time. Ta-ta for now.